The sparrow died in my 7-year-old hands before I learned to bring it back to life. Blood, warm and sticky, seeped between my fingers as the tiny creature's chest stilled. I had found it beneath the old oak, its wing twisted at an angle that made my stomach clench. Death smelled like copper pennies and crushed violets, a scent that would haunt me for the rest of my mortal days. Then the fire ignited in my chest. Heat poured through my veins like molten gold, racing down my arms until my palms burned against the bird's cooling feathers. Light blazed from my fingertips, and the sparrow's wing snapped back into perfect alignment with a sound like breaking twigs. Its eyes fluttered open, black as winter nights, and it launched itself skyward with a cry that pierced my soul. I collapsed into the rose bushes, thorns shredding my dress as exhaustion crashed over me like a tidal wave. Around me, winter roses bloomed out of season, their crimson petals unfurling in the March frost. The sweet fragrance made my head spin. Mother found me there hours later, unconscious among flowers that shouldn't exist. When I woke in her arms, her face was white as bone. "Never again," she whispered, her fingers trembling against my fevered cheek. "Promise me, Charity. The world would burn you alive if they knew. But how do you hide the sun beneath your skin?" 15 years later, the bell above Hartwell Apothecary's door chimed like a death knell as I measured dried chamomile into brown paper parcels. Each flower crumbled to dust between my fingers, releasing its apple-sweet scent into air already thick with lavender and rosemary. My hands moved with practiced precision, but my mind wandered to darker places, to the fever dreams that had plagued me for weeks. Visions of stars calling my name in voices like breaking glass. Mrs. Aldrich's rheumatism flared purple-black in my peripheral vision, a bruising pain that made my own joints ache in sympathy. Beside her, young Tommy Marsh radiated the sickly yellow-green of infected lungs, each breath a struggle that echoed in my chest. Their suffering painted the air in colors only I could see, a symphony of agony that clawed at my resolve. "The usual willow bark tea, Mrs. Aldrich?" I asked, my voice steady despite the shaking in my hands. She nodded, pressing coins into my palm with fingers gnarled like old roots. "Bless you, child. Don't know what this village would do without your family's remedies." If only she knew. The real healing happened after midnight, when I slipped through shadows to lay burning hands on fevered brows, drawing sickness into myself until it dissolved in the crucible of my gift. Each secret healing left me weaker, more translucent, as if I were slowly becoming a ghost of myself. The angel of mercy, they called me in hushed whispers. Never suspecting their savior served them chamomile tea by day and stole their pain by moonlight. Thunder cracked overhead like the world splitting open. Through rain-lashed windows, I watched the storm tear autumn leaves from their branches, sending them spiraling into the growing darkness. The air tasted of electricity and impending change, metallic, sharp, alive with possibility. That's when he appeared. The door burst open on a gust of wind that sent my carefully organized herbs flying. Lightning illuminated the stranger's silhouette. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair plastered to his skull by the rain. He stumbled forward, and I caught my first clear look at his face. My world tilted sideways. Sharp cheekbones carved shadows beneath eyes the color of storm-tossed seas. His skin held the pallor of fresh snow, but beneath the surface, something else entirely blazed. Where other people radiated the familiar spectrum of human ailments, he burned with colors I had never seen. Silver shot through with veins of deep violet, aurora bright and utterly alien. The scent of ozone and night-blooming jasmine flooded the shop, so intense it made my knees weak. Power recognized power, calling to something buried deep in my bones. "Please," he said, and his voice carried undertones of distant thunder. Then his eyes rolled back, showing only white, and he collapsed. I should have called for Father, should have sent for the village doctor. Instead, I barred the door and dragged him to the narrow cot we kept for emergencies, my hands already burning with the need to heal. His fever raged like wildfire beneath my palms as I pressed them to his chest. The moment our energies connected, I gasped. This wasn't sickness. It was something far more dangerous. Cosmic fire consumed him from within, star-bright and merciless, as if he had swallowed pieces of the sun. My healing power poured into him, not the gentle stream I had learned to control, but a torrent that left me gasping. Hours blurred together in a haze of silver light and burning hands. Dawn painted the windows rose gold by the time his fingers closed around my wrists. Enough. His grip was iron strong despite his illness, his skin now cool against mine. You've given enough, Star-Blessed. That name, ancient, forbidden, made my blood freeze. Only the oldest texts mention the Star-Blessed, healers chosen by cosmic forces and marked for extraordinary destinies. I had memorized every crumbling page in grandmother's hidden library, but I had never expected to hear those words spoken aloud. His eyes opened, revealing irises that shifted like oil on water, green melting into gold, melting into midnight blue. They held the depth of centuries, the weight of secrets that could crush mountains. Who are you? I whispered, though part of me already knew the answer would change everything. He sat up with fluid grace, power radiating from him like heat from forged steel. My name is Greg Stellaris, and I've been searching for you across half the known world. The surname hit me like a physical blow. Stellaris, of the stars. The old texts spoke of watchers who served as guardians and guides to the star-blessed. But they were myth, legend, stories told to explain the unexplainable. You're not human, I said, and it wasn't a question. His smile was sharp when he said, neither are you, Charity Hartwell. Not entirely. Over the following days, Greg wove himself into the fabric of our lives with disturbing ease. Father welcomed him as an apprentice, impressed by his uncanny knowledge of herbs and healing arts. Mother treated him with cautious warmth, though I caught her watching him with troubled eyes when she thought no one was looking. But it was during our private moments that he revealed the truth of what I was, and what I was destined to become. Your bloodline traces back to the first Star-Blessed. He explained one evening as we walked through the orchard behind our cottage. Fallen apples carpeted the ground, their sweet decay perfuming the air with memories of summer. Every few generations, the cosmic forces choose a new guardian, someone capable of channeling pure starlight to heal what cannot otherwise be healed. Overhead, the stars seemed brighter than usual, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. And you? I'm your watcher, your guide. He stopped beneath an ancient apple tree, turning to face me with an intensity that made my breath catch. But I'm also something the texts don't mention, which is a man who has fallen in love with the woman he was sent to protect. The words hung between us like a challenge, electric with possibility. In the moonlight, his eyes blazed with something more dangerous than cosmic fire. Desire, raw and barely leashed. I should have stepped away, should have remembered the warnings about mortals and immortals, the inevitable tragedy of loving someone bound to a higher purpose. Instead, I moved closer, drawn by forces older than wisdom. Greg. He silenced me with a kiss that tasted of starlight and sin. The moment our lips met, the world exploded into brilliant clarity. Every blade of grass glowed with life force, every star sang in harmonious chorus, and the very air shimmered with golden threads connecting all living things. I could see the cosmic web that bound the universe together, felt the pulse of creation itself flowing through my veins. When we finally broke apart, I was trembling, not from cold, but from the knowledge that I had found the other half of my soul, and that our love might be the very thing that destroyed us both. This is why the texts don't mention watchers falling in love, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Because when we do, we stop being guardians and become something far more dangerous. What's that? We become willing to watch the world burn if it means keeping you safe. Winter arrived with the fury of a scorned god, burying Millbrook beneath drifts of snow that reached the cottage eaves. But inside our sanctuary, passion bloomed like hothouse flowers. Greg taught me to channel my power more efficiently, showing me how to draw energy from the earth and stars rather than my own life force. His hands guided mine as we practiced, sending electric shocks through my body that had nothing to do with healing magic. The air between us crackled with tension, heavy with unspoken desires that grew stronger with each passing day. "You're pulling too hard from your core," he murmured during one late-night session, his breath warm against my neck as he adjusted my stance. His fingers burned against my wrists, leaving trails of fire in their wake. "Feel how the starlight wants to flow through you, not from you." I closed my eyes, trying to concentrate on the cosmic currents he described. But his proximity made thought impossible. The scent of his skin, ozone and winter nights, and something uniquely him filled my senses until I could barely breathe. "Like this?" I asked, attempting to channel energy from the constellation visible through the window. "Perfect." His voice had dropped to a growl that made my toes curl. "You're magnificent when you let the stars claim you." I opened my eyes to find him watching me with a naked hunger, his carefully maintained control finally cracking. The space between us pulsed with electricity, drawing us together like magnets seeking their opposite poles. This time, when our mouths met, there was nothing gentle about it. He kissed me with the desperation of a drowning man, his hands tangling in my hair as he pressed me against the work table. Dried herbs scattered around us, filling the air with the scent of crushed rosemary and desire. "Charity," he whispered against my lips, and my name sounded like a prayer. "We shouldn't." "Don't." I silenced him with fierce kisses, pouring all my longing into the connection between us. "Don't think. Don't question. Not tonight." He surrendered with a groan that vibrated through my chest, lifting me onto the table with ease. His mouth traced fire down my throat, while his hands mapped territories no man had ever explored. I arched beneath his touch, starlight crackling beneath my skin as passion and power merged into something transcendent. We made love among scattered herbs and ancient texts, our bodies moving together with the rhythm of celestial bodies in their eternal dance. Each touch sent shockwaves through the cosmic web. Each kiss deepened our bond until I couldn't tell where I ended, and he began. Afterward, as we lay tangled together beneath my grandmother's quilt, Greg traced lazy patterns on my skin with fingertips that still glowed with residual magic. "The stars sing differently now," he said, wonder coloring his voice. "They know you're no longer alone in your power." I pressed closer to his warmth, trying to memorize the feel of his heartbeat against my cheek. Something cold and knowing whispered at the edges of my consciousness, a warning that this happiness was temporary, borrowed against a future I couldn't yet see. "What happens when my time comes?" I asked, the question I had been avoiding finally forcing its way past my lips. "When I have to choose between ascension and losing my gift." His arms tightened around me, protective and desperate. "I don't know. The texts speak of choice. but they never mention what happens to those left behind. I won't leave you. The words came from my heart, fierce in their certainty. Whatever the cost, I won't abandon what we have. He was quiet for so long, I thought he had fallen asleep. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of prophecy. The stars don't care about mortal love, Charity. When they call you home, you may not have a choice. Spring's return brought with it a plague that swept through Millbrook like wildfire. Children fell sick by the dozens, their small bodies burning with a fever that no earthly remedy could touch. I watched helplessly as the village I loved died, the colors of suffering painting the air in shades too dark to bear. On the third night, when little Sarah Fletcher's life flickered like a candle in the wind, I made my decision. I have to try, I told Greg as we stood over the child's bed, her parents weeping in the corner. I can't watch them die when I have the power to save them. You'll burn yourself out, he said, catching my wrists as I reached for her. The fever is unnatural. It will take everything you have and more. Then that's what I'll give. For 3 days and nights, I poured my life force into the dying children of Millbrook. Greg stayed beside me, feeding me his own strength when mine faltered, holding me upright when exhaustion threatened to claim me. But with each healing, I felt myself becoming less substantial, more light than flesh. On the final night, as I healed the last fevered child, the change began in earnest. Light blazed from my hands, brighter than the sun, and I felt the stars calling with voices like crystal bells. The choice Greg had warned me about crashed over me like an avalanche. Ascend and become eternal, or remain mortal and lose everything that made me special. Everything except him. It's time, Greg whispered as I stumbled away from the child's bedside, his strong arms the only thing keeping me from dissolving into pure energy. Tears carved silver tracks down his face, catching starlight like fallen diamonds. We climbed the hill where we had shared our first kiss, the same place where I had learned that love could be more powerful than duty. The night sky blazed overhead, constellations pulsing in welcome as cosmic forces gathered around us. I can't leave you, I said, touching his face with hands that flickered between flesh and light. I won't. My beautiful star. He kissed my fingertips, his lips warm against an energy that barely remembered being human. You were never meant to stay earthbound. You belong to something greater than one man's love. But I love you. The words tore from my throat, desperate and raw. Doesn't that matter? It matters more than you know. He pulled me close, and for a moment, I felt solid again in his arms. It matters so much that I'm going to let you go. The star's song grew louder, irresistible now. My physical form dissolved, my skin becoming luminous mist that rose toward the waiting constellations. But even as my body abandoned me, my heart remained achingly, impossibly mortal. Look for me, I whispered as consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of flesh. In starlight, in healing, in every act of love, I'll be there. Always, he promised. And the word followed me into infinity. Now I burn among the eternal fires, a guardian star watching over the world I left behind. I feel every prayer for healing, every moment of compassion, every heart that opens to love despite the certainty of loss. And on clear nights, when Greg stands on our hill and gazes upward, I blaze brighter than all the rest. My light carries everything I couldn't say in those final moments. That love transcends form. That sacrifice becomes beauty when freely given. That some bonds are too strong for even cosmic forces to break. He has aged in the years since my ascension, silver threading through his dark hair like captured starlight. But his eyes still hold the depth of storm-tossed seas, and when he speaks my name to the darkness, the sound reaches me across impossible distances. He teaches others now, sharing the knowledge we discovered together. Under his guidance, a new generation of healers learns to balance power with love, duty with desire. They don't know their teacher once loved a star, but they carry pieces of our story forward in every life they save. And sometimes, on nights when the veil between worlds grows thin, I manage to whisper across the void 3 words that echo in his dreams, carried on cosmic winds that smell of roses and starlight. I love you. He hears me. I know because his answering smile lights up the darkness below, bright enough to rival the stars themselves. In that moment, the distance between earth and heaven becomes nothing more than another word for longing. And longing, I have learned, is love's most faithful companion. Some stories end with death, others with separation. But ours continues in the space between heartbeats, in the pause between lightning and thunder, in the eternal dance of starlight falling to earth like tears of joy, forever and always, burning bright. Magic doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It whispers through your bones at 3 a.m, leaves you breathless on familiar streets that suddenly feel foreign. I learned this the night Manhattan's concrete maze tried to swallow me whole, and I discovered that some hungers run deeper than flesh. The October moon hung like a silver wound above the city, casting shadows that writhed against brownstone walls. As a botanical photographer, I'd spent 5 years capturing beauty in decay. Wildflowers clawing through abandoned lots, rooftop gardens defying gravity. My camera lens had become my shield against loneliness, each click of the shutter a heartbeat keeping rhythm with my solitary existence. Nothing prepared me for what waited behind the ancient stone wall on East 73rd Street. The scent struck first. Night-blooming jasmine threaded with something darker, more primitive. Something that made my blood sing and my skin flush with sudden, inexplicable heat. I'd photographed this street countless times for my upcoming book on hidden urban gardens, memorized every crack in the sidewalk, every iron railing. Tonight, the air itself pulsed with electricity, raising the fine hairs on my arms. That's when I saw it. The gate that existed only in dreams. Wrought iron twisted into impossible patterns, metal so intricate it seemed to breathe. Blue light pulsed beyond the bars like a living heartbeat, and I felt an answering rhythm low in my belly, urgent and demanding. My fingers trembled as I reached for the latch, expecting cold metal. Instead, frost bloomed beneath my touch, delicate as spun glass and twice as dangerous. The gate swung open without a sound. Christ, I whispered, my voice swallowed by a sudden silence. Beyond lay a path illuminated by flowers I'd never documented in any botanical journal. Each footstep released clouds of silver pollen that made my head spin and my pulse quicken to a rhythm I didn't recognize. The air grew thick, almost liquid, tasting of honey and dark promises. With every breath, something inside me awakened, something wild and hungry that I'd spent 30 years keeping caged. Moonlight pooled like mercury in the hearts of impossible blooms. The grass beneath my feet felt like silk, each blade tipped with starlight that ruptured the darkness of my carefully controlled world. Beauty so intense it penetrated my chest, leaving me raw and exposed. My camera hung forgotten around my neck as I stumbled forward, drunk on wonder and an arousal so sudden and fierce, it nearly brought me to my knees. "You're finally here." The voice rolled through me like an intense heat, and I spun toward the sound, my heart slamming against my ribs with the force of recognition I couldn't explain. He stood among a cluster of blue roses, their ethereal glow casting shadows across the sharp angles of his face. His silver-streaked dark hair caught the moonlight, and his eyes shifted color like the aurora borealis, blue to green to gold and back again. An ancient camera hung from his shoulder, brass and leather worn smooth by decades of use, its weight familiar in a way that made my chest tight. Danger radiated from him, and a desire so potent I could taste it on my tongue. "I'm sorry," I managed, though my voice sounded foreign in this place between worlds. "I didn't mean to trespass." He stepped closer and I caught his scent, cedar and midnight air with an underlying musk that made my mouth water and my thighs clench. "Marina Cross, photographer of hidden worlds. You're exactly where the garden needs you to be." The sound of my name on his lips sent heat spiraling through my core, molten and demanding. "How do you know who I am?" His smile was slow, predatory, the kind that promised dark pleasures and sleepless nights. "I know everything about you. Your work, your dreams, the loneliness you carry like a blade against your ribs." He moved another step closer, close enough that his body heat warmed the space between us. "I've been waiting 30 years for you to find me." "Waiting for what?" The question escaped as barely more than breath. "For you to stop running from what you are." He gestured toward a marble bench surrounded by glowing flowers that pulsed in rhythm with my racing heart. "Sit with me, Marina. There are things about yourself you need to understand." Every rational instinct screamed to flee this place, this man who spoke in riddles and looked at me like he could see straight through to the hunger I'd never acknowledged. Instead, I followed him to the bench, hyper-aware of his presence as I sat. The marble was warm despite the cool night air, as if it held memories of skin and passion. From his camera bag, he pulled an album bound in scales that shifted from deep green to midnight blue. The cover felt warm beneath my fingertips, almost alive, pulsing with the same rhythm as the flowers around us. "I'm Finn," he said quietly, watching my face with predatory focus as I opened the album. "Guardian of this place, and if the garden has chosen correctly, I will soon be something more." The photographs inside shattered reality. Gardens captured in impossible light, flowers that pulsed with their own luminescence, moments frozen in time that made my photographer's mind reel with possibilities I'd never dared imagine. Each image shimmered in my peripheral, like breathing things trapped on paper and desperate for release. "These are," I breathed, touching one that showed a cascade of starlight blooms. The image grew warm beneath my fingers, and I could swear I heard their gentle chiming, a song that resonated in my bones. "How is this possible?" "The same way you'll capture them." His hand covered mine on the album, and electricity shot up my arm, settling low in my belly. "This garden appears to those chosen to document its magic. I've been its guardian for 30 years, waiting for someone who could see what I see." I looked up into those impossible eyes, now a deep emerald that made my pulse skip and stutter. "And now?" "Now it's chosen you." His thumb traced across my knuckles, a simple touch that sent fire racing through my veins and made my breath hitch. "Look through your lens, Marina. See what I see." With shaking hands, I raised my camera. Through the viewfinder, the garden exploded into a wonder that redefined everything I'd ever seen, known, or experienced. Colors danced, flowers pulsated with an inner light that matched the rhythm of my accelerating heartbeat, and the very air sparkled with magic made visible. When I lowered the camera, Finn was studying my face with an intensity that made heat pool between my thighs. "The garden doesn't choose guardians lightly," he said, his voice rougher now, edged with something that sounded like hunger. "It chooses souls that recognize magic, souls that have been starving for this moment their entire lives." I don't understand what's happening to me. His fingers traced my jaw, feather light but branding me, leaving trails of fire that made me lean into his touch. You will. Permit yourself to feel it, Marina. Stop fighting what you are. He led me deeper into the garden, showing me wonders that rewrote the rules of reality. Moonflowers that bloomed only under starlight, their petals crystallized light itself. Pools that reflected different seasons, their surfaces rippling with memories of springs yet to come and summers that burned with possibility. Hidden paths that rearranged themselves as we walked, leading us to discoveries that made my pulse race with more than wonder. But it was Finn himself who fascinated me most. The way he moved through this impossible place, like he was part of it, connected to every leaf and petal by invisible threads of power. His knowledge ran deeper than botany. He understood the garden's very soul, its hungers and desires that mirrored my own. When he spoke of the spirits that tended the flowers, his voice carried reverence. When he showed me how to photograph the invisible, his hands guided mine with practiced intimacy. Magic flowed between us like electricity, making my skin hypersensitive to his touch. There, he whispered, his breath warm against my ear as we crouched beside a cluster of silver blooms. His body pressed against my back, solid and warm and dangerously male. Do you see them now? Through my lens, translucent figures tended the flowers, their forms shimmering like heat mirages or distant dreams. My camera captured them, preserving their ethereal beauty for the first time in decades, and I felt something inside me shift and settle into place. My God, I breathed, lowering the camera to find Finn observing me with eyes that had darkened to forest green and pupils dilated with something that looked like hunger and recognition in equal measure. You see everything, he murmured, his voice rough with an emotion that made my stomach clench with want. The garden chose perfectly. It knew what I needed. Hours passed like heartbeats, the moon tracking across the sky in ways that defied physics and reason. As it set, panic clawed at my chest. Will I be able to return? Finn's hand found mine, our fingers intertwining as if they'd been crafted to fit together. The garden exists between heartbeats, between moments in time. Once it chooses you, you will always find your way back. His grip tightened, and I felt the tremor in his touch. But Marina, becoming its guardian means accepting its magic completely. It will change you in ways you can't imagine. And you? The question scraped from my throat, raw and desperate. What happens to you? His smile held joy and sorrow. That depends on what you choose. The garden has never selected a new guardian while the previous one still serves. I believe it's trying to tell us something that neither of us has been brave enough to acknowledge. In that moment, surrounded by impossible beauty and thrumming magic that made my skin tighten, I understood. This wasn't about photography or guardianship. This was about destiny, about two souls recognizing one another across time and space, about a hunger that had been eating me alive for years without understanding what I craved. I lifted my camera and turned it on him. Through the lens, I saw the magic that flowed through him, connecting him to every living thing in this place. He glowed with an otherworldly light that was beautiful, ancient, and devastatingly male. When I lowered the camera, he was standing directly before me, close enough that I could see flecks of gold in his color-shifting eyes, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his skin. The garden chose well, he whispered, his hand cupping my face with a gentleness that belied the intensity burning in his gaze. When his lips touched mine, the world exploded into sensation and color. Magic erupted around us like a dam breaking. Flowers burst into bloom, releasing clouds of luminescent pollen that swirled through the air like stardust. The ground beneath us hummed with an energy that traveled up through my body, making every nerve ending sing with a pleasure so intense it bordered on pain. The taste of honey and starlight flooded my senses until I was drunk, lost in a kiss that felt like coming home and losing myself all at once. In that kiss, I understood everything. Why the garden had waited. Why Finn had seemed familiar from the first moment. Why my soul had been restless my entire life, searching for something I couldn't name, but recognized the moment I found it. We were bound by more than magic. We were two halves of something that had been broken long before either of us drew breath. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, the garden pulsed around us like a beating heart. Finn's eyes burned with desire and something deeper, more primal, possession and tenderness and a hunger that matched my own. "Marina," he said, my name a prayer and a promise on his lips. "Yes," I whispered, not caring what I was agreeing to. In this place between worlds, with magic flowing through my veins and this impossible man looking at me, I would have agreed to anything he asked. He kissed me again, deeper this time, his hands tangling in my hair. I pressed against him, feeling the solid heat of his body, the rapid beat of his heart that matched mine stroke for stroke. Around us, the garden sang with approval, flowers blooming brighter, the very air shimmering with our combined desire and the magic that bound us together. We spent that night exploring more than the garden's wonders. We discovered one another, the way Finn's eyes darkened when I touched him, how my name sounded like a benediction when he whispered it against my throat. The marble bench became our altar, the glowing flowers our witnesses as we claimed one another under the eternal moon, magic and desire twining together until I couldn't tell where I ended and he began. The sun found us tangled together, our clothes scattered among the glowing blooms, my camera forgotten beside us. In the growing light, I expected the magic to fade, expected this beautiful dream to dissolve into harsh reality. Instead, the garden remained. Finn remained. And the bond between us pulsed stronger than ever. "I have to go," I whispered against his chest, though every cell in my body hated the idea. "You'll come back." It wasn't a question. His fingers traced patterns on my bare shoulder that made me shiver with renewed desire. "The garden won't let you stay away. Neither will I." He was right. In the weeks that followed, I returned every full moon, drawn by magic and desire. The garden revealed its secrets slowly. Paths that led to other dimensions. Creatures that existed between reality and dream. Flowers that bloomed in colors that had no names in any earthly language. But it was Finn who consumed my thoughts during the long days between visits. His touch haunting my skin, his voice echoing in my dreams. By day, I continued my normal life, editing photographs and working on my book. But the images from the garden changed everything. Colors seemed more vivid. Shadows held deeper mysteries, and my regular work fell flat and lifeless by comparison. I was changing, becoming something new, something that belonged more to that magical realm than to the mundane world I'd known. The choice, when it came, felt inevitable. 6 months later, I closed my apartment lease, packed my cameras and a few meaningful possessions, and stepped through the iron gate for the last time as a visitor. Finn waited for me in the garden's heart, his eyes bright with joy and relief and a love so fierce it took my breath away. "Are you certain?" he asked, though his arms were already around me, holding me like he'd never let me go. "I've never been more sure of anything," I whispered against his lips, tasting magic and promise and forever. The garden pulsed with approval as we sealed our bond, magic flowing between us. I felt the moment it accepted me fully. Power flooded my veins, connecting me to every living thing in this impossible place, and to the man who'd been waiting his entire life for someone to share the burden and beauty of guardianship. Now, 3 years later, we tend the garden together, capturing its endless wonders through our combined lenses. Each photograph tells part of our story, a story of magic, destiny, and a love that burns as eternally as the moonlit blooms around us. Some nights, we watch as others find their way to the garden's gate. We see that same wonder and hunger we once wore. Watch as they discover magic beyond their wildest dreams. Not all are chosen, but all leave changed, carrying sparks of wonder back into the world that desperately needs reminding that magic still exists. The garden continues evolving, revealing new mysteries with each full moon. Finn and I discover them together, our cameras capturing the impossible, our love deepening with each shared moment of magic and wonder. We've learned that true enchantment lies not in supernatural beauty alone, but in finding someone who sees the world through the same magical lens. Someone who understands that some hungers can only be satisfied by embracing the impossible. In quiet moments, sitting on our marble bench with glowing flowers pulsing around us like captured stars, I marvel at how a hidden garden brought two souls together at exactly the right moment. The magic that flows through us tells stories of other guardians, other loves throughout the garden's endless history, but none that burned quite like ours. With Finn's hand in mine, I understand that the greatest magic is love itself. Love that transforms, reveals, and makes the impossible real. Every photograph we take carries that truth, sharing it with a world desperate to believe in wonder. As tonight's moon rises over our enchanted sanctuary, I raise my camera once more, ready for whatever new magic the garden offers. Because that's what love truly means in this place. Not the absence of mystery, but the presence of someone who makes every mystery worth exploring, every wonder worth capturing, every moment worth living in full, brilliant color. In this garden of endless possibilities, Finn and I have found our forever. Our story continues to unfold like the garden's endless paths, each day bringing new discoveries, new reasons to fall deeper into a love that defies explanation and transcends ordinary understanding. For in this place between reality and dreams, we have found not magic alone, but home in the garden, in our art, and most importantly, in one another's arms. Blood-red paint streaked across my knuckles as I clawed at the canvas, desperate to capture the face that haunted my dreams. The studio reeked of turpentine and obsession, empty coffee cups forming rings on every surface while October rain hammered against salt-stained windows. I stepped back, my chest heaving. Storm gray eyes stared back at me from the canvas. Eyes that seemed to hold secrets I'd never learned yet somehow understood. Around me, dozens of paintings caught the dying light, each one a variation of the same impossible man, the same angular jaw, the same cruel mouth that promised damnation wrapped in silk. Haven Cove whispered about me. Ailey Morrison, the artist who paints ghosts. They thought I was losing my mind, squandering my inheritance on paint and solitude, while other women my age collected husbands and mortgages. They had no idea I was waiting. The morning fog rolled in thick as smoke, muffling the eternal crash of the waves. My hands trembled as I gathered supplies, driven by a compulsion that felt like fever in my veins. The wooden steps groaned beneath my feet as I descended toward the beach, each board singing with an electricity that made my skin crawl. That's when I saw him. He stood where the fog met reality, his black coat billowing like fallen angel wings. The mist parted around him as though he commanded it, and when he turned, the world cracked open. Every brushstroke I'd ever painted crystallized into this single shattering moment. He was beautiful in a way that hurt, dangerous in a way that called to the darkness I kept buried beneath layers of small-town respectability. The paintings don't capture your fire. His voice poured over me like whiskey. Though you've painted my soul with remarkable accuracy, Ailey. my art supplies scattered across the sand like abandoned prayers. How do you know my name? I know everything about you. Predatory grace marked his every step as he moved closer. The way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. How you taste coffee twice before declaring it too bitter. The scar on your palm from when you were 7 and tried to catch a falling star. Ice flooded my veins. I looked down at the thin white line across my palm, the one I'd told everyone came from a kitchen accident. Only I knew the truth. I'd reached for a meteor that seemed close enough to touch, desperate to hold something magical. Impossible, I whispered. My name is Nader. Fog swirled around him like living silk, and I noticed his feet left no prints in the wet sand. I've crossed oceans of time to find you. The rational part of my mind screamed warnings, but my body betrayed me, leaning toward him like a moth toward a flame. Heat radiated from his skin despite the October chill, and when our eyes met, recognition slammed through me with the force of a tidal wave. You've been painting me for 3 years, he continued, his voice dropping to a hypnotic whisper. Every angle of my jaw, every shadow beneath my eyes. You know exactly how I look when I'm angry, when I'm aroused, when I'm afraid. Tell me that's normal. It wasn't. Nothing about my art had ever been normal. Images appeared in my mind complete and demanding, flowing from brush to canvas with an urgency that left me breathless. Galleries fought over my work, calling it haunting, otherworldly, impossible. 300 years ago, I spurned a goddess. The confession wrapped around me like salt air and danger. Not from cruelty, but because even then, my soul belonged to another. She cursed me to wander through time, searching for my true love. 3 chances across eternity to find what's mine. And if you fail? His jaw clenched, revealing the vulnerable boy beneath the immortal man. I will fade. Not a death, but complete erasure. Every trace of my existence will unravel, and your paintings will turn to blank canvas. The thought hit me like ice water. Those paintings were my life's work, my soul made visible. This is your 3rd chance? My last. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see gold flecks in his gray eyes. I have 29 days to convince you to bind your soul to mine, or I'd disappear forever. Bind my soul. Become immortal. Join me as a guardian of destined love, helping souls find one another across time. His hand lifted toward my face, stopping a heartbeat away. The space between us crackled with electricity. We'd have forever, but never rest. Always moving, always searching. I should have run. Any sane woman would have called for help, barricaded herself behind locked doors. Instead, I drowned in those storm-gray eyes, seeing a truth that defied every law of logic. Why me? The question barely escaped my throat. Because you're the other half of my soul. His voice broke, centuries of loneliness bleeding through his composure. I've loved you before I knew you existed. I'd rather fade to nothing than spend eternity without you. The days that followed burned away my old life. Nader appeared each morning as dawn broke, bringing gifts that redefined the impossible. Shells that sang ocean songs, flowers that bloomed in patterns matching my dreams, stones that glowed with inner fire. He told me stories that rewrote history, how he'd walked through plague-ravaged London, watching love bloom in death's shadow, how he'd danced at Versailles, whispering courage to forbidden lovers, how he'd stood in speakeasies during Prohibition, watching souls recognize one another through smoke and jazz and danger. Love is the only magic that matters, he said one evening as we sat surrounded by canvases that seemed to pulse with life in the candlelight. Empires crumble, religions fade, even mountains turn to dust. but love burns eternal. I painted him constantly, each canvas capturing a different facet of his impossible existence. The way shadows clung to him, how his smile promised salvation and damnation in equal measure. The vulnerability he showed when he thought I wasn't watching. Moments when centuries of loneliness cracked his armor. "You're fading," I observed one afternoon, my brush trembling as I attempted to capture the increasing transparency at his edges. Time runs short. He didn't deny it. I can feel the curse tightening around me. "Show me what you really are." The studio shifted, reality bending like heat waves. Nader's form solidified, becoming more vivid than anything around him, while my carefully constructed world faded by comparison. Power radiated from him in waves that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. "This is what you'd become," he said, his voice echoing with otherworldly splendor. "Eternal, powerful, belonging neither to heaven nor earth." I reached for him, fascinated by how the light bent around his skin. My fingertips made contact, and his flesh burned like fever and ice simultaneously. Shockwaves of sensation raced up my arm. "It's beautiful," I breathed. "It's a curse." But he didn't pull away. "You'd never age, never die, but you'd never belong anywhere either." "I don't belong anywhere now." My thumb traced his cheekbone, marveling at the way he trembled beneath my touch. "I've been waiting my whole life for something I couldn't name. Ailey." My name on his lips sounded like prayer and profanity combined. "I dream about you every night," I confessed. "Dreams so vivid I wake expecting to find you beside me." Heat flared in his eyes, turning them molten silver. "What do we do in these dreams?" Fire flooded my cheeks, but I held his gaze. "Things proper women don't speak of." His laugh was pure sin. "There's nothing proper about what I want to do to you." The admission hung between us. I'd painted passion into every line of his mouth, but hearing him voice his desire sent liquid fire through my blood. This was dangerous ground, the kind that led to ruin and scandal. I'd never wanted anything more. "Show me," I whispered. He backed me against the wall. "Are you certain? Cross this line, and there's no return to polite conversation." "I've never wanted polite conversation with you." My hands fisted in his coat, pulling him closer until our bodies aligned in exquisite torment. "I want everything you're afraid to give me." His control shattered like glass. His mouth crashed into mine with centuries of hunger, and I understood why mortals weren't meant to love gods. The kiss consumed me, rewrote every nerve ending, taught me languages of desire I'd never known existed. When we broke apart, gasping, gold flames danced in his eyes. "I've loved you across lifetimes, painted your face on cave walls, carved your name in stones that have turned to dust. Then why does this feel like the first time?" "Because it is." His thumb traced my swollen lips with reverence. "The first time I can touch you, hold you, hear you say my name. The first time you're real instead of a beautiful haunting." Hours disappeared as he showed me wonders beyond imagination. How to read love stories in star patterns. How to hear the earth's heartbeat beneath Haven Cove's roots. See the golden threads of fate connecting all living souls. In return, I painted our story. Canvas after canvas filled with scenes from lives we'd never lived but somehow remembered. Medieval feasts where plague waited outside castle walls. Ships sailing toward unknown continents. Flight through revolution-torn streets, hands clasped against a world gone mad. We've found one another before. I realized one twilight as we lay entwined on the beach, waves lapping our bare feet. glimpses. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my arm, never long enough to break the curse. What happened to me? His hand stilled, storm clouds passing across his face. You died young. Always. Fever, accident, war, plague. Fate stole you away before we could bond. The weight of past tragedies settled over us. How many times had he watched me die? How many lifetimes of grief had he carried? I'm not dying this time, I said, turning to face him. Whatever it takes, I'm not leaving you again. Relief and terror warred in his expression. The binding ritual will remake you fundamentally. You'll cease to be entirely human. Will I still be me? Yes, but more. Enhanced. You'll feel everything deeper. Joy, pain, love, loss. The mortal world will seem gray by comparison. I thought of my quiet life, predictable days, the safety I'd built like armor. Then I looked at this impossible man who'd crossed centuries to find me. I'd rather burn brightly beside you than fade slowly alone. The final week blurred past in stolen moments and growing desperation. Nader's form wavered more each day, transparency claiming him bit by bit. During storms, I could see through his chest. When he smiled, it carried the heartbreaking beauty of a dying star. What if it doesn't work? I asked on the 28th night, my voice barely audible above the thunder. Rain lashed the windows while lightning turned the world stark white. Then you'll live. You'll forget me slowly, the way one forgets dreams. The paintings will fade, but you'll find love again. Safe love. I don't want safe love. The admission tore at my throat. I want dangerous love, impossible love, love that rewrites physics and makes gods jealous. Even if it destroys you, especially then. The final night arrived with supernatural clarity, stars bright enough to hurt sight, a moon swollen with power. The ocean sang with voices older than civilization, while bioluminescent waves painted the shore in living light. I found Nader at the water's edge, barely more substantial than mist. Hours remained before the curse claimed him completely, and panic threaded through his ethereal beauty. Before we begin, he whispered, know that loving you has been worth everything. Worth the curse, the centuries of searching, the risk of fading. You've been my North Star, Ailey, my reason for existing. I walked into the waves until they lapped my ankles, the warm water electric against my skin. Then let's make sure you never exist without me again. The ritual began with a kiss tasting of starlight and eternity. Power surged between us as our souls recognized what they'd always known. We were two halves of one impossible whole, split by cosmic accident, fighting to reunite across time. Magic rewrote me cell by cell. My vision exploded into impossible colors, showing dimensions mortals couldn't perceive. I felt every living pulse, from the smallest sea creature to the ocean's vast consciousness. My hearing expanded to catch the music of spheres, the cosmic symphony that kept planets dancing in their orbits. Pain and pleasure blurred beyond human experience as mortal limitations burned away. I died and was reborn, shedding my old self like discarded skin. When the transformation was completed, I glowed with Nader's otherworldly light. Where our hands joined, sparks of silver and gold danced like newborn stars. His thoughts twined with mine, creating an intimacy deeper than telepathy, more profound than touch. How do you feel? He asked as he studied my transformed face. I smiled, power thrumming beneath my skin, seeing golden fate threads connecting every soul across Earth like a vast, beautiful web. Like I am finally home. Together we rose from the waves, gravity's crude demands no longer binding us. Below, Haven Cove stretched like a painting, every detail sharp in my enhanced vision. I saw couples destined to find one another, their threads glowing brighter. I sensed broken hearts needing to mend, lost souls crying out for their matches. "Ready for forever?" Nader asked, his hand warm and solid, no longer fading, no longer cursed, but vibrantly, eternally alive. I squeezed his fingers, feeling infinity stretch before us like an endless canvas. "I'm ready." We soared toward the dawn. In my studio below, the paintings glowed with subtle magic that would call to other searching souls. And sometimes, on nights when the moon swells and the air thrums with an enchantment only possible with the thinning of the veil, visitors to Haven Cove swear they see two figures dancing on the waves. Two forms wreathed in light, their love a beacon guiding lost souls home to the dangerous, beautiful truth that some bonds rewrite reality itself. The curse had become a gift, the ending a beginning, and love had conquered time itself.